Hello, my friends. My name is Jack Descartes, and this is Sentinel Circle. Thank you for being here today. Let's get right into it. Dating apps have left me self-deleting. How can I find love before it's too late? Oh, Lord. Here we go. I'm a 40-year-old man who has used dating apps for 8 years and met about 100 different women, not counting the ones with whom I just chatted. So 8 years. Let's pause this already. Not even one sentence in, and already I'm like, okay, something's not right. That's about 12 women. So that's one woman a month, basically, roughly. That's me doing quick math in my head. I could be like off, but I know 100 at 10 would have been 10. So 8 would have been about maybe 11, 12. It's roughly once a month that he's meeting women. Now, granted, he's chatting with others, but compare that to the one article where the woman was essentially homeless and she was using dates to not live out in the streets. I'll find that article. We'll do a video on that. But isn't that interesting, my friends? No one seems to want a relationship. Everyone is broken, including me. Some women turn me down, allegedly, because I asked to split the bill on the second date, having paid on the first. Why is that such a problem? Why seriously, why should we not want to split the bill on dates? Like, isn't that like part of equality, is people pay their own way? Come on. And that's the second date too. Like, first date he paid. Like, she's lucky he didn't ask her to pay for the whole bill. Some turn me down because I want kids and they don't. Yeah, okay, fair. Some tell me I'm a nice man. Ooh, nice guy, trademark, patent pending. After which I don't hear from them again. Yeah, tell me about it. I've never ghosted anyone, but I've turned down some good people too. I was trying to do the right thing by my head and my heart. At least this nice guy, trademark, patent pending, was nice enough to let the women down. I can't begin to tell you how much I hate getting ghosted. You know, you go get ghosted for your job. You go get ghosted after a date. Like, ghosting. I don't mean to be cliche here, but the ghosting needs to stop. It really does. It is so heartless and just blatantly evil. You know, at least say, hey, I'm not interested, then block them. You know? By straight up ghosting, you're just avoiding an awkward situation, and then you wonder why you're too timid to do anything. I was trying to do the right thing by my head and my heart. It appears everyone's is looking for chemistry and not finding it. Because you have to compromise. You're not going to find the perfect little puzzle piece. You got to learn to certain quirks, deal with it. So I tried meeting women without using apps. My friends are married or in long-term relationships and unfortunately don't know anyone they could match me with. When I was younger, I worked in a big company and went to house parties. Now I'm self-employed and my friends throw baby showers. So I don't mean single women as much. But I've gone to bars and courageously chatted to the women I fancied. Sometimes it actually works. We connect and later go on a date. But she may just like me professionally or as a friend. She may be in a relationship already. Yeah, I can sympathize with that. You work up all this courage and it's just like you get shut down. Women, if you're watching, I doubt you're watching, but if you are, you know, A, thank you for being here. And B, it really takes a lot of courage for a guy to walk up to a random stranger and put themselves out there. Please just, I'm trying not to sound horrible saying this because realistically you don't have to do anything, but just please be kind enough to say, you know, cut it down immediately, you know, gently, you know, because a lot of us, it's a struggle. Okay. I work long hours and rarely meet new people. I go to social events once a week, but often it feels more like networking. I also try speed dating to no avail. I've heard this story a million times before. At least on the app, all the women are single, which is a good start. Sure. That's just between you and me group here. Like, a lot of women who are on those apps, they may not necessarily be the single type. But last year, the corrosive activity of swiping, chatting, meeting, and rejecting or mostly being rejected became too much, and I considered self-deleting. I deleted the apps instead of myself. I wish I could afford counseling, but it's too expensive, and the NHS talking therapies. Hang on, let me reread that because I just all of a sudden got a little cross-eyed on that. But it's too expensive, and the National Health System talking therapies appear to be reserved for people who are struggling more than me, which is understandable. Okay, so I didn't realize that, in the UK, if you need to see a therapist, not only do you pay, but it's also on a wait list. God dang it. All right. I want to find love and try having children before it's too late. I would appreciate your advice. So this is kind of like a guy asking for advice. So first off, I will give the guy advice, and then we'll see the advice that others have given. So, to whom it may concern, you are more than your job, your relationship status, your whatever. You are a man. I'm not telling you to start acting like one, okay? But it's important for you to be a man, okay? And I'm not saying be a man, be stoic, and be robotic, not have feelings, all that stuff, okay? I understand. A lot of us guys of the me variety, we all feel the same way, okay? We're not getting dates. We're not getting relationships. It just seems like we're doing all this gear spinning just to wind up empty-handed. And, just like women, we have biological clocks too. It may have a longer time because men produce testosterone long after women are not viable to have children. However, that means meeting people. That means doing certain things, okay? It's hard. Believe you me, it's very hard to do. And like, there's nothing I can really say there's not much advice I can give you beyond what you're already doing. You're going on the apps and all that stuff. We've seen that women tend to be more happier when they're single. Assuming I released that video beforehand. If not, then it's coming out. Trust me. Point being is that you're just going to have to figure something out if that's what you want, or you could realize that it just may not be happening for you. Okay. Try to make peace with it now. If it happens, great, but just make peace with it now. That's the best thing I can tell you. Places like Sentinel Circle. Hi. Hello. We're open to, welcoming you in and, listening to your life struggles and all that stuff. But if you're in the UK, you may not be able to meet it with us unless we get a chapter out there. There are other groups. Okay. That being stated, let's see what the response was. Something struck me about dating apps, and I say this with trepidation, but they are no different from real life dating insofar as people sometimes think they're ready for a relationship. Ha, ha, ha. They are very different from real life dating. It might as well be a resume versus the actual date, which is the interview process. And I don't mean to equate it with the business life, but that's essentially what it is at this point. The dating app is resume. You submit your resume by swiping right. And then the person, the job, the business, i.e. in this case women, they look at your resume and they either straight up ghost you, or you match, you talk a little bit, and then that's the part of the job interview. That's the online portion of the job interview. And then, it filters down from there until you manage to get a date, which is the in-person job interview. Unfortunately, it's a numbers game. That's really what it boils down to. You may like someone, they may not like you. The person may like you, but they may not like you may not like them. It sucks. That's life. Okay, we made peace with that. Holy Mary. God, I don't like the fact that it's like this, but it is. The whole issue with making everything global is now you got to compete with the globe. And with the ease of making fake profiles, it just makes things worse. How many times have you been on a dating app and it turns out that the person you're talking to is trying to either sell you, or they try to steal your information, or they try and take your, my favorite one is when they try to sell like pictures and they're trying to get you to buy them and they're trying to scam you. That's the fun one. So let's reread that. Sometimes something struck me about dating apps. And I say this with trepidation, but they are no different from real life dating insofar as people sometimes think they're ready for a relationship, but subconsciously they actually aren't. I'm wondering if that could be you. So already this guy is getting blamed for wanting a date. Okay. I spoke with Susanna Absey. Okay, I think it's Absey. A couple's oh my God. Stop with it. The fancy titles. Come on. This is ridiculous. Psychoanalytic psychotherapist and the author of Tell Me the Truth About Love. The world of dating apps is notoriously challenging, she says. It's clear you are bruised and disappointed by the experience. The reality, however, is that an estimated 8% of people in the UK now finding their long-term partners this way. Wow, that is a really poorly worded. The reality, however, is that an estimated 8% of people in the UK now finding their long-term partners this way. And the older you are, the more likely this will be, because you're getting desperate. Once you get desperate, your willingness to put up with certain things kind of increase. They say any port in a storm. Well, the storm is coming, my brothers, and it ain't pretty. But don't go into any port in a storm, because they may charge you an arm and a leg and then steal half your boat too. Immediate physical attraction is great, but perhaps chemistry also develops over time if the person is interesting. Thank you for making me laugh like that. I haven't laughed like that in quite a while. Okay, so let's unpackage that. If you're getting ghosted after the first date, you don't really have a chance to, let the chemistry flow. It takes a while for the bubbly to happen, and if you don't get the chance to let the bubbly happen, then what's the freaking point? It seems like a lot of people are just wanting something for nothing, i.e. a dinner for free. While it's true that people on dating apps are mainly single, it's also a highly pressurized setting. As Absney says, God, I'm sorry for hitting the mic. People can be very anxious about rejection, so they avoid showing interest. What? People can be very anxious about rejection, so they avoid showing interest. So what the hell? Why are you there to begin with? Okay. Absney wonders whether open-heartedness and a willing to look for friendship are actually as important as chemistry. Of course, immediate physical attraction is great, but perhaps chemistry also develops over time if the person is interesting and crucially interested in you. Okay, that's good. In other words, it goes both ways. Are you interesting? Are you curious about those you meet? We wonder if you'd consider doing something that interests you, an activity, and putting that ahead of looking for a partner just for a while to get you out of the place where it seems to be all about work or finding a partner. Absney makes another point. I wonder if you are struggling with low-level desperation, she says. You might have a tendency to minimize and mute your feelings because the idea that feeling suicidal isn't something you would that would qualify you for NHS therapy support is simply this. Hang on, I got to reread that. That's a mess. I wonder if you are struggling with low-level desperation. Oh, depression. Pardon me. Wow. Can't read today. She says, you might have a tendency to minimize and mute your feelings because the idea that feeling self-deletion isn't something that would qualify you for NHS therapy support is simply wrong. Again, the mental illness aspect. I got to be honest with you. Like, when I read these out loud, it makes more of an impact to me than if I read this silently. So, like, the constant trope that I see is something's not quite working out for you. You must be mentally ill. Okay? You must be dealing with low-level depression. It's always depression specifically. Which, okay, I get it. You know, you're depressed. Fine. Everybody else and their mother is depressed. Jesus. You know, but therapy is not the answer. Let's see here. What else? Another one. You gotta go out and do something. You know, find a skill, bro. God, I'm starting to sound like certain individuals, and I don't like it. But he's right in many ways. You got to go out there, put yourself out there. You know, go bike, go do whatever. And I'm not saying this because I want a relationship. I'm not. I don't want a relationship. I'm okay. It's just more that, you know, people who self-identify as the I word, I can see why they feel the way they do, because you get stupid advice like this. I take all mentions of self-deletion very seriously. Please see your GP and explain how you feel. Absney also suggests group therapy, which can help us see how we interact with others and is much more affordable. Contact the Institute of Group Analysis for more information. Okay, so that's kind of like a self-insert advertisement. That being stated, I do believe in a group therapy like what we're trying to do here at Sentinel Circle. I do firmly believe in that. You don't need a therapist to have a group therapy. You can just sit there with a bunch of guys and air out what you're dealing with. You may not accomplish anything, but it does help. Our sense of worth and self-esteem can be augmented by a partner, but ultimately it has to come from within. I have a hunch that if you could address the first, the rest may follow. And that's the rest of that. I almost said a naughty word. This article was just a crud fest from start to finish. So let's go ahead and take a break. It's an advertising break. We'll come back with your comments, and then we will end with final thoughts. So please stay with us. Thank you. Hello, my friends. Jack Descartes here once again. Thank you for watching this video. We appreciate it. I just would like to take a few moments of your time. Right now, we are currently raising money to host a website. We have Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, as well as a Patreon in case you'd like to donate once or you'd like to give a continued donation. The donation on the Patreon is only $3 a month. Cash App, Venmo, and PayPal, you can donate however much you want. There is no obligation. I will continue to try to provide as much content for free as possible. Once the website is up, we will use that as a hub for all Sentinel Circle related activities, including local meetups, as well as online meetups, online discussions, and videos. So again, if you could go and donate to either Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, or Patreon, all the links are in the description. We appreciate everything you have done for us. And if you can't donate, we still ask that you like, subscribe, and share. All these activities do help even in the most insignificant ways. If you do donate, you will be immortalized in our videos and the website. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Now back to our scheduled program. Thank you and welcome back. Okay, so I read your comments now. This comment is at 1439315. New subscriber. Seriously and respectfully, I love Waffle House because the waitress just states, "What can I get ya?" Whereas both Denny's and IHOP wants to sell you drinks, dessert, entree, and appetizer. Hey girls, I'm not here to hand you over 100. I'm here for a cheap meal. I have a worthless degree in finance, BBA, Bachelor's of Business Administration. People would work if the currency was worth a chit. He doesn't say the S word. He says chit. In other words, if you are not paying $25 an hour, get the heck out of here with a fake pretend wage that doesn't mean a living wage. Well, first off, thank you. Welcome to the circle. Waffle House, yeah, it's a good meal. You ain't wrong. Denny's and IHOP. In fact, I went to an IHOP the other day, and oh boy, I could do a whole video on that mess. But Jesus, so let's continue. It's late. I go in there. I'm with someone. There's a guy standing there. We're standing there, and he turns to us, and he's like, with a smile on his face, because they all have smiles on their freaking faces. He's like, man, people these days just don't want to work. Let me try to imitate it. People these days just don't want to work. Mother, people want to work. They just want to be treated with dignity and respect at their work. You stupid. Anyways, so the lady comes out, and there's 3 people working. I mean, it's like late at night, and 3 people working, and the lady's the manager. There's one other waitress, and you just got the cook, and they're by himself. And there's like a couple tables. She's like, "Sorry guys, cash only." It's like, I wanted my freaking pancakes, so I had a couple bucks. Fine, whatever. I said, okay, I can sit you. The other dude was like, man, the other IHOP down the road, they got like an hour wait time, and now you're telling me this. And the guy was going off on this poor woman. And I was just like, dude, shut up. Seriously, just shut up. Oh God. The people that show up to work, they don't want to hear about how you're mad because you can't pay with a card. Okay? They get it. They hear it 1,000 times by the time you're there. So shut up. I'm sorry. It's just, that guy really just, and the fact is those comments are the reason why people don't want to work. Like I, in my job, am sick and tired of hearing, well, this never works. That never worked. It works up until it doesn't work. And then that's when you notice. Because I can see the tickets. I see how long it's been installed. I see the tickets. I know it's been working for over a year before it had its first breakdown, because you guys are putting bad money into the dang machine. I see that. And then you're mad. Well, it should take any money. Well, no. If it's got a tear, it's not going to take the money. I'm sorry. Okay? I'm sorry that you can't figure it out. Maybe take the extra time, filter your money out, and there wouldn't be a jam, and I wouldn't have to be listening about how you think the damn machine doesn't work when it obviously does. And I hear that day in and day out, and people wonder why I'm so upset all the time. Anyways, and I also agree, like, people want to be paid Pardon me, I had to adjust the light. People want to be paid an okay wage, and I think that that's commendable, but we've seen time and time again, if you want an okay wage, you're going to have to move on. You can't just sit there. And like the manager, she was a very nice lady. I treated her with respect. I treat all my service staff like with respect. I worked in the food service industry. I know how sucky those jobs are. Yes, someone has to do it. I get that. But when you're getting paid dirt wages, getting treated like dirt by the customer base and the staff and the management, it's no wonder that people would rather sit on disability making the same or more versus working. And then people are like, well, maybe we should just get rid of the disability, or maybe stop treating your wait staff like dirt. Have you considered that possibility? Anyways, let's continue. Frank Rizzo, good to see you again, my friend. LOL, unless men change their politics and decide to be pro child deletion and pro open borders, then these women will not settle for you and will continue using the power of feminism to keep you down. Ouch. Yes, you're not wrong, Frank Rizzo. This was in regards to an article that I read where the Gen Z was regressing politically, or Gen Z men was regressing politically, which good for Gen Z men. Honestly, I'm proud of those men. They have shown everybody the way. And I think what it boils down to is brain rot sometimes works in our benefit. I think that with the rise of women doing better in jobs and college degrees and stuff, obviously they don't date down. They're not going to marry down, which means that they're going to stay single because they don't want... I heard it explained to me this way. Women don't want a man baby. That goes to show how they see us. They think that by marrying us, they're going to have to take care of us. And they're like, well, why would I do that when I can be single and not deal with that? So, but again, there's certain individuals out there, and I'm thinking of one right now. He cleans, he does his own dishes. I clean, I do my own dishes. I do laundry. And, I don't want to deal with a member of the opposite sex like that. I really don't, because then I feel I have to take care of them, or they have to take care of me. I don't want any of that. Okay. And I think that's what it really boils down to. And I think Gene Simmons kind of had the right idea where, you're dating until, for 50 years. And then finally she's like, you either marry me or I go. And he's like, okay, whatever, even though they're like in their 80s, and it's obvious that like the end is near for those two individuals. So yeah, this was a good comment. Thank you, Frank. I appreciate it. Kitty Slice. To quote somebody I can't remember at the moment, the boiling water that softens the potato will also harden an egg. Meaning everyone is different in what works for them going through life, and you shouldn't assume your way will work for someone else. Katie, you hit the nail on the head. Not everybody's going to react to the same experience the same way. You are not wrong. And as mentors, as teachers, you have to find the best method for that person. Some people learn visually. Some people learn by doing. Some people learn by just reading a textbook. You have to find what works best, and you have to adapt to them. That's kind of the job as a mentor. Okay. Yeah. You can get frustrated and tell that person to kick rocks. That's fine too. But then that person doesn't learn anything, and then you're wondering, why are all the Gen Z the way they are? Ask me how I know. Nick, NCK 4888. Good to see you again, my friend. I like these videos you're doing. Well, thank you very much for subscribing to this channel, Dick. We appreciate you here at Sentinel Circle. You have been a very generous and good friend of the channel. Thank you so much, my friend. Sam Joel dash P1Z. I'm guessing that's please. Sam Joel, please. MGTOW is freedom. We recently had our first live stream, and we had a panel on what is MGTOW. I myself do not consider myself like, I have to rephrase. MGTOW is a philosophy. That's the one thing I did learn from this panel. MGTOW is a philosophy. No two MGTOWs are going to be alike. There are some consistent tenets, as in like not involving women in your life, going your own way, that kind of stuff. But in general, MGTOW is a philosophy, which that's great. I mean, like I said, I personally don't want to put a label on what I am. The moment you put labels on it, people have preconceived notions. That's why I don't want to do it. I want people to know who I am as an individual, as a person, before they make judgments. And if I go around saying, well, I'm incel, MGTOW, red pill, whatever, they instantly are like, well, we don't want to deal with that person. You know, I have friends on both sides of the political spectrum. I want friends on both sides because that's how I challenge myself, and that's how I grow as a person. You know, I keep an open mind. I want to know what the other side is thinking. I will agree that I don't think some of the ideas that their side has is right. Okay, I'm not going to go into it. There are some ideas that are on my political side of the spectrum that I feel are completely incorrect. If we need to discuss this, then what I am is I'm on the libertarian side. I believe that live and let live. Okay. But I realize that you can't have full on libertarianism. That is ignorant. And I know some people are going to hate me for that, but let's be realistic here. Libertarianism requires good intentions on all sides. And the simple fact is not everybody has good intentions. Okay. And everyone's like, well, that'll balance itself out. You know, that's the one thing I don't like about political ideologies is they always say it'll work itself out somehow. Like it's a hand wave that something's going to work out. Like the problem with communism and the problem with socialism is it's operating again under the assumption that everybody is going to operate with the best of intentions. And we have seen time and time again that people don't operate on best intentions. You know, like full transparency, Sentinel Circle, I'm operating on not selfish intentions, but this is a group that I created because this is what I wanted when I was going through my issues. Okay, because a lot of the other men's groups don't really work out for me. You know, either they charge you money or whatever. There's some kind of barrier that I didn't like, specifically the money one. I mean, you want to donate, okay, but like there's a couple of groups out there, you know, you got to pay like $50 a month just to go to like one meeting or something. No, I'm not doing that. I'm trying to keep this as free and as open as possible. Now, granted, there was some challenges to my philosophy, and after thinking about it, after meditating and sleeping on it, I realized that those challenges were apt. There are predators and there are victims, and I would rather cater to certain victims rather than certain predators. And I had to make that decision. I had to make that stance. That is a compromise on my vision, but again, I felt that it was more important to cater to those victims. Okay. CSA and SA on men specifically are just not discussed, and a lot of it happens from an older man to a young. Not to say it all happens, you know. There's older women that prey on younger women, and you know, women can a man, all that stuff happens. Like example, I have a friend who was involved in a club. I'm not going to go too in depth, but he was violated by a broom handle, and it affects him to this day. And he is very ashamed of it. He doesn't really like talking about it. He opened up to me about it once, and he's never mentioned it again. And like I said, I want him to feel welcome, and you know, I would never want him to have to turn away because his abusers were in the group. And I don't want people to be in that same boat. So that's why I had to compromise my vision and say no predators. So anyways, but again, Sam Joel, thank you very much for being a subscriber. Thank you very much for being here. It means a lot to me. And again, for everybody, every single subscriber is special. Every single subscriber, every person who views the videos is special. If they don't join, that's fine. We're always here. Okay? Again, thank you very much. So I think that was the last one. All right. So we're going to swap over to final thoughts. So the thing about this this article here was if you're putting your self-worth on whether or not you can attract I guess. Okay, hang on. Give me 2 seconds to really formulate my thoughts here. So, you don't need a woman to be. You don't need a woman to be complete. But for some reason, men feel that they need to have a woman to be complete. And I worry about that. And that's why I think that there's this constant vicious cycle of going on dating apps and, you know, trying everything. And as the guy stated, he had 100. He met 100 women in 8 years. That's about almost one a month, almost roughly. Which, in the numbers game, that's not that good. It's not bad, but it's not good. And the thing with rejection after rejection after rejection after rejection is it really wears on you. You know, and then what are you seeking out of it? I mean, and this is the problem between, like, we'll have to do a video on this one day, but we have dimwits and then we have midwits. Midwitism is really what we're talking about here. Whoops, I did not mean to hit that. I'm sorry about that. Midwits are told that there's a path in life and that you have to follow this path. It's not like they actively are sat down and they're like, okay, Johnny, this is what you got to do. You got to go to school. You got to get a good job. You got to get married. You got to have kids, and then you retire. Okay? No one really does that, but it is ingrained in us every single day, whether we notice it or not. It's the best explanation I can give is what's that one movie? They Live. John Carpenter's They Live, where he puts on the glasses and he sees life. You know, it's red pill before red pill is the thing. So what I'm kind of saying is that, again, Alex Jones is right. You got to break the conditioning. That is the conditioning. We're conditioned every single day to want specific things, because when we want those things, people make money. Okay, look at the diamond industry. The De Beers is they're the largest. They're like the only way you can get a diamond, basically, is as through De Beers, right? They have the monopoly, the global monopoly, and they push diamond on women for us men to go buy them a diamond for the marriage, right? But what does a diamond do besides being able to cut pretty much every single substance out there known to man? It just looks pretty. And quite frankly, I think diamonds are kind of overplayed. Like, I think there are other gemstones that I would like to see women wear, but every woman wants a diamond. You know, same thing with the wedding. You know, when you watch a movie, what is a wedding in a movie? Well, the wedding in the movie is the white dress and everybody's on two sides of the aisle and they're walking down the aisle and you got the music playing from the band and all this stuff. And again, it's catered to women. It's not catered to men, because men, quite frankly, if it were up to them, they wouldn't do it. You know? But women, they want these things. Like one of my brothers, his wife wanted a mountain wedding. And God, what was the story behind that? They did it during the winter and it was like snowy. She wanted like a winter wedding in this lodge, and they all had to, like, my family had to scrounge the money to get the hotel room in order to stay the night at this lodge area. So that way they can attend my brother's, it was either second or third wedding. Yeah. You know, and like it was mostly her family. Her mother wanted the wedding that way. She paid for everything, and it was just out of the entire group of people that were invited, like it was mostly her family, her friends. And I'm not talking about the bride's family friends. I'm talking about the bride's mother's family and friends. Whereas my brother only had my stepmom, my dad, and my stepbrother's father, who's like completely drugged out of his mind. Like, you think Ozzy's bad, you should really see this dude. Like, he's really bad. He's just like, the entire time. Anyways, I know that my stepbrother loves his father very much, and it saddens him to see that. It saddens me to see that. You know, but you got to understand, drugs do destroy your brain. I don't care what anybody says. You know, I know everyone's like, well, just legalize it. Well, we've seen what happened with the pot industry. Okay, that's going to happen to every other drug industry. They're going to tax it to the point where the only people that can survive are big businesses. You know, no, thank you. I'm good. Anyways, the point is, you know, this life path is catered towards women. The problem is like, what do guys really want? Well, we're again shown certain things. Like, when you look at a male model, you don't see a guy with a beer gut. You see this guy with 8-pack abs, and he's got big biceps, big muscles. And I mean, Fight Club was right. Is that really what the image of a man is? No, it's not. A man, just like MGTOW, is an idea. You know, it's my idea of a man is different from everybody else's version of a man. Now, I know I'm fat. I know I wouldn't say I'm lazy. I do try to stay active. I'm trying to be more active because there are things I want to do. Like, I want to go hiking. I want to go camping. I want to go do all these things. But I can't because of my weight. Right? I've tried hiking, and I can, if it's a gentle incline, I can go maybe 2 seconds before I'm like, I got to stop. And it's just 2 seconds, 2 seconds, 2 seconds. Take a couple steps, break, and it's like, you know, if I barely get a mile, you know, whereas like if it's just me, my shoes, and I'm walking, I can walk, you know, a good 5 miles, no problem. You know, it's an entirely different strength set. That's not the point of this video. The point is I consider myself a man. Okay. Do I have family, kids, all that? No, I don't. But I still am a man. all the people, like, you know, the quote unquote I words, the quote unquote MGTOW, all those people are men. They're real men. You know, this guy who wants the family, the kids, all that stuff, he's a real man. You know, that stuff doesn't make you any less of a man. Not wanting any of that stuff makes you any less of a man. Okay? We're all men. You know, if you're swinging for the same team, you're a man. I don't agree with those decisions, but you know what? Such is life. You know, I have to make peace with the fact that there are people with other views out there and they are just as manly as I am. Okay? Point being is that don't let society dictate to you what your life path is. That was really the whole point of this article, is don't let society dictate to you what you need to have. Like this, the lady here, the person that responded was like, you know, maybe you have a mental illness issue that you got to get over. Maybe you got to go out there and explore yourself before you go looking for, because the problem in that situation is you can do all that and you'll still never come up with what you're looking for. Okay? Okay, well, anyways, we're going to wrap it up here. Again, thank you for being here. I appreciate that. Make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you donate if you have a couple of spare bucks to donate. We are trying our hardest to get $300 so that way I can host a website for all of us. I'm going to be doing an update video soon on how it's coming. Look forward to that. Anyways, have a good day. Thank you. Goodbye.